Today, we are talking about something that everyone who is struggling with fertility is all too familiar with, and that is stress. And while we know this journey is inherently stressful, I find that no one really explains the connection between stress and fertility properly. This episode is not about just relaxing and all the other unhelpful advice that you hear. Instead, we're discussing the real physiological and emotional impacts that chronic stress has on your overall health and your fertility. And more importantly, what you can actually do about it. If you're exhausted from being told to stay calm while you are navigating one of the most difficult seasons of your life, then this episode is one you don't want to miss. Welcome to your journey to fertility. This is the podcast that blends science with spirit to give you all the tools you need as you navigate your fertility journey. I'm your host, Jennifer Edmonds, and for the last 15 years, I've been helping women on their journeys to motherhood and beyond. I believe that combining the latest scientific research along with the best energetic and mindset practices will help you to avoid putting your life on hold and bring you closer to your baby. Each week, you'll learn ways to support your fertility and trust your body so that you can stop stressing that you'll never have your baby and finally walk your path to motherhood. This is the Your Journey to Fertility podcast. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today. This topic is probably the one that comes up the most when I am working with students. And when you think about it, stress and fertility struggles and pregnancy loss, they go hand in hand. It is just something you cannot avoid throughout this process. But at the same time, and I'm sure you've had a similar experience to what I had, we constantly hear how bad stress is for us. I've had doctors telling me through an IVF cycle, just make sure you don't stress too much, just try and stay calm. And we hear it all the time and how it impacts our fertility, and it's something that we need to avoid. And I'm sure you can relate to this as well, but I would hear all of that so much. And then I would get into this state of being stressed because I was stressed. I think, well, I'm going to ruin my chances this month because I'm so stressed. And okay, I've got to not stress it. It's just this ridiculous, endless, vicious cycle where we can't really get out of it because we're not taught the tools and we're not taught why stress happens, what it is really from a very basic level, and what to do when it is taking over your entire life. Because the problem is that you can't escape stress on this journey. It is literally one of the hardest experiences that you will ever go through. So I am not here to remove stress for you, unfortunately. I'm very sorry about that. If I could, I absolutely would. If I could make this journey completely stress-free, I would. But what we can do is work with it and work around stress. And that is what I want to help you with today. Now, before we get started, a reminder that it is officially 2 weeks to go until we launch Embrace the Journey. This is my immersive 3-day free live fertility yoga experience. And if you have heard me speak about this before, you'll know it is something that I only offer once or twice a year. It is a way for you to experience a lot of what I'm going to talk about today and a lot of what we tend to go into a lot on this podcast. And so many of the practices that I share and the ways in which they can support your fertility journey, your mental health, and your overall well-being as you are trying to conceive. I think the last survey that I ran of my students showed that I think it was about 94% of them said that stress was one of the things that was taking over their lives as they were struggling through infertility. It was taking over their work, their relationships, their finances. Everything is impacted by stress. But having these tools that I share through the work that I do and all of the things that I'm going to share with you throughout this 3-day live experience, they are the things that are going to continually make a difference for you because they worked for me and they work for so many of my students. I have worked with hundreds of women from all around the world, and it is a thing that keeps coming up over and over again. It makes your life so much easier. So if you haven't already registered, the link is in the show notes. Please come and meet me, ask me all of your questions, and it is completely free. I cannot wait to see you there. So that leads us perfectly into this episode because we are going to unravel this whole stress and fertility debate once and for all. So in this episode today, I want to explain to you what stress actually is and why it might not be exactly what you think, why just relaxing is the most unhelpful advice ever, and why it doesn't work, how it can affect your overall health and your fertility, which is important to note, but also why stress isn't the enemy. So here is what no one is telling you and what people do not get when they tell you to just relax or to calm down or just to take it easy. Stress is not an emotion. It is not something that we feel in the way that we feel emotions like joy or sadness or anger. Stress is your nervous system's response to perceived danger. It is a physiological response that your body has when it feels you are under threat. And this is not something that you have control of. Your autonomic nervous system, as I've explained many times, is so highly evolved. It has evolved over literally millions and millions of years. So to think that you can say to your autonomic nervous system, don't stress or just relax when a stressful experience happens, that is not the way things work. So we really need to approach stress from a different angle. You cannot turn this off. It has kept you alive for a very, very long time. And your brain thinks that it's doing a really good job going into this stress response because you've survived. No matter what you've been through in your life, whatever your brain has reacted to and the way that it has responded to times of stress, it has kept you safe. So when someone says to you, oh, well, just try not to stress so much, or just, you just need to calm down a little bit more, your brain goes, nuh-uh, like, why would I do that? The way I'm responding is the way I have kept her alive. So it's going to keep doing that again and again. So I really want you to understand that it is not something that you're choosing. It's not something that you're doing wrong. And it's not something that you can change easily in the moment. Now, here's the problem. Acute stress is fine. It's sort of like, if you cut your finger and it bleeds for a little bit and you put a Band-Aid on and you move on with your life. Acute stress is in the situation, for example, you're crossing the road and suddenly a car comes around the corner out of nowhere going quite fast and you see this car coming out towards you and your brain goes, oh, got to get out of the way. Your fight or flight response kicks in, hopefully flight, and you run. So you get out of the way of danger. And then once that danger has passed, your nervous system goes, cool, danger is averted, we're back to safety, normal processes can resume. So that's acute stress. And there's nothing wrong with that. It keeps us safe all day, every day. But the problem is chronic stress. And when we are in this hypervigilant state, when we are in fight or flight or freeze or even shut down for prolonged periods of time, that is where things become a little bit of an issue. And that's where they have a bit of an impact on your overall health and fertility. So when you are in this state of fight or flight for months or even years, your body eventually says, I'm really struggling to keep up with the energy demands of all of these stress hormones that I am producing, cortisol, adrenaline. And so your brain kind of says to your body, where can I take some energy from other non-essential to survival processes within the body so I can keep up with the energy demands of stress? So your body says, do you know what? I don't think I need to worry about digesting my lunch if I'm running away from a tiger. So you can have a little bit of energy from my gut, my digestive system. We tend to start to think about those areas of brain fog, times where it's like, I can't remember what I was supposed to be doing today. Just that constant, can't focus, procrastinating. Fight or flight responses literally switch off that prefrontal cortex, that thinking part of your brain. So you're going to take a little bit of energy from that. We find that sleep becomes disrupted because if you are on that, constant lookout for that tiger that's about to attack you, your body is not going to feel safe to sleep. So we see a lot of insomnia, a lot of sleep patterns happening where we struggle to fall asleep and we struggle to stay asleep, that kind of waking up around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Our immune system starts to shut down as well because fighting off a virus is something that you need to do, but it's not essential for immediate survival if that threat is imminent in the moment. We see thyroid issues starting to come up as well. And the other thing that we don't need that's not essential to our immediate survival is reproduction. And that's where we start to see cycles going out of whack. So this happened to me, and I see this over and over again. I will have students come to me and they'll say, I don't understand what's going on. I used to have this like really regular 28-day cycle. It was so predictable. I would ovulate right in the middle. I wouldn't get any PMS. I know when my period was going to come. But then a year, 2 years into trying to conceive, and they've been through all of the things that go along with fertility struggles, they say my cycle is now completely out of whack. I have no idea when I'm going to ovulate, if I'm going to ovulate. My period is so unpredictable. Sometimes my cycle is 21 days. The next month it's 34 days. I start to get a lot more PMS. I'm getting headaches, I'm getting cramping. And this is no accident, and it goes hand in hand with chronic stress. So when you are in fight or flight, your adrenal glands, your brain says to your adrenal glands to pump out the hormones cortisol and adrenaline. So they are the hormones that keep you ready to fight or to run in the moment. And if you are pumping those hormones out over and over again in quantities that your body can't really keep up with, like I said before, it's going to start taking energy away from other parts of the body. So without getting too sciencey or too technical here, the precursor hormone that makes cortisol also makes a lot of your sex hormones, including progesterone. And as we know, progesterone is crucial for ovulation and a healthy implantation. So one of the first things that I tend to notice if cortisol imbalances are happening within a lot of my students, we notice that luteal phases start to become quite short. You go from a 14-day luteal phase to maybe 9 or 10 days. That's when we start noticing like spotting before the period starts, and all sorts of like horrible PMS symptoms start to come up from low progesterone as well. And all of this can lead to inflammation within the body. Your body struggles to heal. It is an awful ongoing cycle. And when I learnt this, I actually felt a lot of relief, because it made me feel like, well, my body was just trying to protect me. I wasn't doing anything wrong. It wasn't because I wasn't eating properly or, not doing things the certain way, or I wasn't doing the perfect pregnancy plan that I had. It was none of those things. It was my brain saying, this is too much. This is too much to cope with, and we're going to do whatever we can to keep you safe. Now, I want to point out that yes, you can absolutely get pregnant when you're stressed. And we know this happens every day. Women in war zones get pregnant. Women in abusive relationships get pregnant. So I'm not saying that this is the end of your fertility forever and ever. Absolutely not. But what I really want to approach this, where I'm coming from with all of my work is that, I'm not going to tell you that you can't get pregnant because you're stressed, because that's ridiculous. But the biggest thing for me is that stress makes your life miserable. When you are in this state day after day, and it starts affecting your health in so many different ways, as I experienced and that I see over and over again, that is no way to live. And getting pregnant when you're in that state, pregnancy is the most demanding thing physically that you'll ever put your body through. You don't want to get pregnant when you are basically in survival mode. You want to be in a place where you feel like your body is capable of supporting this pregnancy. So what are we actually going to do about it? Isn't that the $1 million question? So we know we can't remove the stresses of this journey. We can't remove these 2-week waits and all of these appointments and the medications and the procedures that we have to go through and the stress that it takes on our finances and our relationships. But what we can change is your body's ability to return to safety. And that word safety is crucial. Sounds kind of dramatic, but that is what all of this is about, your body feeling safe. So first we have to recognize it. And it's very easy because this doesn't happen suddenly. You don't go from one day, sleeping really well and having, an easy time navigating your relationships and your work and all these things. And then the next day it's like, I can't sleep and everything's stressful. It creeps up on you slowly over time, which is why we don't really give it enough credit and why we don't recognize it when it happens. I absolutely didn't recognize it. And I was, that typical type A, let's just keep going. I'm doing all the things. I need to check everything off my list. Not for a moment did I stop to think that maybe my body was trying to tell me something when I was taking sleeping tablets and anti-anxiety medication. This is something that happens very gradually. And like so much of what I share on this podcast, the very first step is awareness. So I want you to start to notice some of these things that may be showing up for you. Do you absolutely lose it over small things? That was something that I look back now, and some of the things that used to completely throw me, like getting stuck in traffic, or, the supermarket would be out of my favorite yogurt, or just like stupid things like that. I would get so worked up about these things. And, I've told so many stories about where I've had these like massive tantrums when I was going through IVF about these little things that happen to these poor people around me, like, oh, this crazy hormonal woman is just having a complete breakdown. So if things like that are happening to you, if your response to the situation, if you can just take a step back and look at it objectively and say, I don't think my reaction really fit that situation, that is a sign that cortisol is running the show. We also find that we have total rumination about thoughts and things that are going on in your life without resolution. So it's okay to think about things and kind of work through them and think, okay, well, this is my decision. This is how I'm going to play this. But if you are just constantly like replaying conversations, oh, I didn't say that to my doctor, and why didn't I advocate more in this, and what could I have done better? And it just goes on and on and on. This voice that just keeps coming up, and it's your fault and you should have done better. Ruminating over and over without any resolution is a sign that, again, you are in that chronic state of stress. Catastrophizing is something that happens a lot. So even if you get good news, if something goes well, your immediate response is, well, what could go wrong? This could happen tomorrow. This is too good to be true. I'm just going to wait for the other shoe to drop because surely that can't be right. And just thinking, if you get one piece of news, it leads to the end of the world. We get into that state where our brain just goes into shutdown, and the worst things imaginable can start happening. And the more physical things that we notice happen in the body, like gut issues, I notice is usually the first thing that shows up. So you either get quite constipated, or you're going to the bathroom a lot more than normal, or you feel a lack of hunger. That's a sign as well. I mean, if you are fighting for your life, your brain's not going to go, I could really go for a sandwich right now. Cortisol and the stress response shuts down those normal feelings of hunger. So gut issues is a really, really big one here. Sleep and thyroid dysfunction as well. So that was huge for me. I went from being like this, this person that I'd never thought about sleep. I'd hear about sleep issues and I'd be like, oh God, thank God that's not my problem. And I can't tell you how much I value my sleep these days, because I've experienced total insomnia for months and months on end. It was debilitating. And thyroid is something that often we get checked throughout our fertility journey, but your thyroid gives you a lot of symptoms as well. We notice hair loss, really bad skin, weight gain without any other explanation, things like that. And as I mentioned before, cycle issues. So when you notice your menstrual cycle, as we talk about so much, it's like this report card that you get at the end of the month. If that report card is showing things are out of balance and out of sync, that is a sign again that cortisol is taking over a lot of your day. So once we've recognized it, secondly, what I want to talk about is that it is not about avoiding stress. As I mentioned, we cannot take away the stressful parts of this journey. Nervous system regulation work is not about not getting triggered or upset, because that is impossible. You are human. Instead, it is about your capacity to experience these things and then return to a baseline of capability more easily. So yes, you're going to get triggered. Things are not going to go your way, but it's not like you then go into this spiral of, well, my life is ruined. You are able to look at them a little bit more objectively when these things happen and know that you can come back to that place of safety more easily. I want you to be able to find ways for your body to feel safe again, so you can move in and out of regulation more easily. It's like surfing, there's going to be times where you get dumped by the waves. There's going to be times where there's no waves and you're just kind of cruising along. And then there's going to be times where you're flying and it's going to feel wonderful. But all of these phases that we go through, they need to flow, and you need to be able to come back to that baseline more easily. That is what nervous system regulation work is all about. It's like training a muscle. And your body really needs to learn this. I know it's so easy for us to talk about it and intellectualize it. I love the analogy of, like, you could read a book about swimming and you could go, okay, I get in the water, I don't know how you'd explain swimming. I, move my arms, I kick my legs, and I start to float. You can kind of intellectualize that, but it's not until you get in the pool or the ocean and learn physically how to do something that you're going to embody it and your body is going to experience it. Nervous system regulation work is 100% like that. You are never going to be able to get the benefits of it until you experience it within your body. So there's two ways that I approach this. There are things that you can do in the moment when you are in a stressful situation or you're feeling really anxious or overwhelmed. And of course, there are varying degrees of this. There's like little triggers, and then there's bigger, more dramatic and traumatic things that happen to us. And the second thing is things that you do on a regular basis. And this is more like you're going to the gym, the regular, consistent practices that you do that are going to set you up for the next time something difficult happens. So in the moment, and I think this is the hard part, because it's very easy when you go into fight or flight, it's all about, well, your thinking brain has gone offline. So you don't think, okay, well, now I'm in that stress response and now I need to go through whatever I need to do to help myself feel a little bit more capable in this moment. And it does get easier. And I think now when I go into that state of dysregulation, I notice it really quickly. My heart is starting to race, feel irritable. You get those clammy palms. You feel like you're breathing really quickly. So the more it happens and the more you're able to go, okay, I recognize this, and now I'm going to do something about it. But I think this is the hardest part. So if you are in that state, if possible, remove yourself from the situation. So if you're in a group of friends or something has happened at work or whatever it might be, if you can excuse yourself and just go and find somewhere calm, take yourself to the bathroom, remove yourself from that stress response in the moment, do that straight away. We often go into freeze or fawn. I find, especially as women, the fawn response is a sympathetic response of the nervous system where we try to appease our perceived attacker. So an example of this when you're struggling with fertility is, someone will say something stupid like, you'll announce your pregnancy and they'll be like, oh, well, it's early, don't get your hopes up, don't get too excited. And instead of saying the thing that you really want to say, which is, I am excited about this, and this has been a long time coming, and I don't appreciate being told how I should feel in this moment. We fawn and we say things like, yeah, we're hopeful, or, oh, okay. We shut down the way that we're actually feeling in order to just make the situation go away. And I completely get it. That's sometimes what we have to do. Another example is, well, when are you going to have kids? Time's ticking, you're not getting any younger. And we go, yeah, thank you so much. I know. Hopefully it'll happen soon. Whereas what we really want to say is, well, I've just been through 3 rounds of IVF and I've just lost another 3 embryos. So I am trying. Thank you very much. So we do what we can in the moment just to make the situation go away. So just be aware of your responses in those situations. And again, removing yourself, if you can, is the best thing for your nervous system. But if you find yourself going into that reaction, I find that your breath is the best thing you can do in that moment. Something that you can do that people don't even really notice you doing in the moment is 2 long inhales with a little pause at the very top, and a very slow, slow, slow exhale. So you can even do this now as I'm talking. So you just go inhale, inhale, hold, and then slowly, slowly exhale. You do that for about a minute or 2. Your nervous system is going to start to switch out of fight or flight and back into that parasympathetic response that we want. So those are little things that you can do in the moment. Remove yourself, come into your breath, sort of recognize your response. Maybe you can take a breath before you say something back to that person. I find that shaking or gentle touch in a moment of acute stress is helpful as well. So shaking out your hands. If you're by yourself, maybe you want to shake out your whole body. If it's appropriate to, dance around the room or jump up and down a little bit, rubbing your hands along your arms or vigorously rubbing your palms together can be really helpful as well. And sometimes you might need to just cry or scream it out. And if you are safe and you are able to do that, give yourself that space, because it's really healing to be able to do that. Scream into a pillow, just have a massive cry, hopefully to someone you feel safe with. So in the moment, those are all the things that you can do. Daily tools are these, it's kind of like they're easier because, they're not something that you have to sort of think about in the moment and change your response to, but these do take work. So they're not easy kind of long term. But I really encourage you to find the things that work for you in terms of nervous system regulation, because here is where things change. And here is where so much of the work that I do comes in. And this is going to look different for everybody. Yes, I am a yoga and a meditation and a breathwork teacher. So these are the things that I love to speak about and that I find so, so powerful. But you don't have to do yoga. You can listen to this podcast forever. I'm not going to tell you have to become a yogi, but you have to do something. You have to find some way to help your body and your mind feel connected again, for your body to feel safe. It can be as simple as getting outside, staying hydrated, eating well. All of these things are good for everyone. You're going to find the things that work for you. Things that support uncertainty without bypassing emotion. So you can go for a walk, you can feel everything that's coming up for you, but at the same time, being really present to what is around you, feeling the temperature of the air on your skin, noticing the sun on your face, feeling the ground underneath your feet. These are incredibly powerful ways of allowing what is happening in your life to move through you somatically. Things that work for you are not necessarily going to be the things that work for me or for someone else. And I can give you all of the tools, but I talk so much about the toolbox and you finding the things to put into that box that work for you. And I want to mention co-regulation as well, because humans forget that we are communal beings and that we cannot function optimally and thrive in our lives without human connection. And that doesn't always mean just your partner. They can't always be, your go-to, your therapist, your emotional support person. And often they are. And, that's amazing that you're able to find someone like that. But you need more than one person in your life to be able to go to. There's a misconception that regulating always feels good and that it always means calming. That is not true. Sometimes you need to meet yourself where you're at. So if you're feeling very, very overwhelmed and very, very much in your sympathetic nervous system and very stimulated, sometimes slowing down and doing a deep breathwork practice or a meditation is not what you need. Your brain's going to be screaming at you, run, fight. This is not where we need to be. So sometimes you need to disperse that energy. And that's where practices like shaking or vinyasa yoga or going for a run are going to be really, really helpful. If you are really concerned about your stress and your cortisol levels, and you are finding that you're not really getting anywhere with your own practice and finding your own regulating tools for your toolbox, it is important to get help from someone who really understands how to guide you through the nervous system responses. And I think it isn't something that is in a lot of kind of general training when we talk about, yoga teachers and meditation teachers. You want to work with someone who is trauma-informed and trauma-trained, because this work is very nuanced and it does take a different approach depending on where you're at. So I do want to mention that as well. There's this awesome quote that I love, and this always comes back to me. It says, "The most powerful person in the room is the most regulated person in the room." Not the calmest person, not the one who says the most or who is the cleverest, but the person who can exactly know where they're at and respond to a situation rather than reacting. The more regulated you are, the more this signals safety to your body, and the more it signals to your body that reproduction is something that it can prioritize. And that's where it starts to impact fertility again in a really, really positive way. Now, just as we finish up this episode, one thing I want to touch on is the idea of loss and all of the experiences that you've been through. It doesn't even need to be pregnancy loss, but going through infertility in itself is incredibly traumatic. Trauma is a bigger conversation, and I have some amazing guests coming up on the podcast next month that are going to go through the topic of trauma in a deeper way and help you unravel it. But you think about when something stressful happens, it's like something that's happening to us in the moment. We're responding to something that happens straight away in front of our face. But stress can come from past experiences as well. And that's almost the definition of trauma. You can have a memory of something that happened, being in that ultrasound room where the doctor or the technician said to you, "I'm sorry, but there's no heartbeat." That traumatic experience is going to trigger your stress response for weeks, months, years to come, unless we start to address it. Being hypervigilant comes from a lot of traumatic experiences. We lose that naivety where we just go through life thinking everything's happy and everything's going to turn out really well. When you have these awful experiences and you've had that moment of the rug being pulled out from underneath you, that is the definition of trauma, walking around waiting for something bad to happen even when we get good news. And time doesn't always heal these wounds, which is a big misconception as well. So if that is kind of resonating for you, more than anything, you need to find ways to help your body feel safe again. And like I said, this is where you need to work with someone who is very trauma trained. So please reach out to me and see some of the offerings that I have if you think that this is the case for you. So before we finish up, I really want to normalize that you are experiencing stress because this is an incredibly stressful thing to go through. You are not too stressed to get pregnant. Your body is trying to protect you. And there are ways that we can work around this to, yes, help it become easier for you to make that time to pregnancy shorter. But I really want to look at this as a way to make your life easier again and to make you enjoy your life again. That is what all of this is about. We can retrain that stress response and we can make these experiences feel easier. So a reminder, if you haven't already, please secure your spot for Embrace the Journey. We start in 2 weeks today. And if you want to go deeper into this nervous system work for fertility, this is exactly what we do inside my In Your Element fertility yoga program. So this is my complete yoga, breathwork, and meditation program where we have so many incredible somatic tools designed for women on this journey. It is a way for you to really be guided through this journey and know exactly what you need at every step of the way. You're not guessing, you're not trying to figure it out on your own. You have that incredible support. So after my 3-day free live series in 2 weeks' time, once we finish and wrap that up, you will have the opportunity to join the In Your Element program if this is the right thing for you. It's something that I only open up for a few days of the year because I really find that I want to work with people on that closer basis. And it's lovely to bring a group of women in at the same time and watch them support each other throughout this process as well. There is a huge amount of healing that comes from that. So later this week, I have a bonus episode dropping for you as we continue our real life infertility stories. So keep a lookout for that. And then next week, I am so excited for this upcoming episode. We're going to talk about the one step and the only thing that you need to do and focus on if you are really feeling stuck and have no idea what to do next on your fertility journey. I'm going to walk you through the only thing that you need to focus on. So until then, I am sending you all of my wishes as you continue your own journey to fertility.